All right, I'm live. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to this live broadcast. It's Thursday. And it's time for our PTM live session. If you're here with me, let me know that you're here. Okay, if you're joining me, please let me know where you're joining me from. My name is Maribeth Chima. I am the convener of the Parenting Through Mentorship Academy and community on Facebook. If you are with me on Facebook or on YouTube, please let me know that I have got company by saying so in the comment section. Let me know where you are joining me from. Let me know if you are here with me, and if you know someone that needs to be here, someone that you need to invite to be here, please let them know that the show is on. Let them know that we are here already and doing our thing. All right, so this is the Thursday hangout, and we usually have this session every Thursday where we come and talk about real issues in parenting. We come and talk about issues that affect us as parents. I have said often times that parenting is a universal issue, and so the same challenges that we have in parenting, as a parent in America, in the UK, in Nigeria, in Japan, we kind of have the same, kind of, quote and unquote, we kind of have the same, issues or the same challenges come up in our parenting. So I'm wearing my t-shirt, Bedtime Stories for Champions, and that is partly because today our lesson is going to be coming, some of our lesson is going to be coming from the book Bedtime Stories for Champions, which is a bestseller that I wrote almost 2 years ago. So Bedtime Stories, hey, my sister is here. Hey, Lamso, how are you? All right, so Bedtime Stories for Champion is a book that I wrote almost 2 years ago, and that book has gone on to bless a lot of families. It is a book that you can have conversations, you can use to have conversations with your children. It's a book that can inspire your children, motivate your children. So it is such a huge, an effective resource that you want to have in your home and in your children's library. All right, so today let's go right into it. He said we're looking at how you can help your child, right? Use their talents, their gifts, their interests, okay, what they love to do, how you can use it to help your children become successful in their academics. Hey sis, how are you today? Okay, so how you can use that to make your children successful even in their academics. All right, if you know someone who needs to be here, please invite them right now. We all know that our children's academic success is something that we are all interested in. You cannot tell me that you're not interested in this. In fact, if you're an African parent, it is top on your priority of what you have done for your children to make them what you've done for you to say your children have turned out well, right? For a lot of us, it's top on our priority. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be. It actually should be, huge on your priority list. All right, so today we're looking at how other things that our children learn or other things that our children do can actually contribute to the success of this particular area, rather than for us to focus all our energy on this particular area. Okay, so truth is, point blank is, children learn in school and they learn at home. Okay, the learning that happens in school cannot be, there is no way to measure and say there is more learning that happens in school than it happens at home. The reason why a lot of us as parents don't put in our best, or we don't do so much with our children when our children are home, it's because we have the mindset that our children, or all the learning that our children need, has to happen in school. All right, and we feel like at home we don't have to be intentional about the learning that happens at home, right? So why our children learn from watching us, why they learn from the instructions and the yelling and shouting and instructions that we give at home, a lot of us think that that's enough. Okay, the fact that you can say to the children, will you greet her? And then so for us, this is us teaching. Okay, because we now understand that parenting is teaching, isn't it? As a parent, you need to teach. You are the one that will teach your children those morals. You're the one that will teach your children a lot of skills if you understand that by now. You're the one that will teach your children about God, your faith, and all of that. You're the one that will teach your children about your culture, your local dialect, and all of that. Okay, so a lot of us don't dispute this, that we're the ones that should teach them all of this. But what we have a problem is the fact that we need to teach them all of this intentionally. Meaning, we must have a plan, right? We must have a plan in place to teach them these things. So a lot of us still don't think we should bother with a plan or bother with, some structure around it, or be deliberate or intentional about it. We still want to chance it, such that, okay, the only time it comes up is when our children goof or they do something wrong, right? So when for some reason someone comes in and they don't greet the person, that's the only time we go like, will you greet this and that? That's the only time you attend to that aspect of their learning. So it simply means that if your child can walk into the living room, see a visitor and say, oh, good afternoon, ma, and walks away, every other thing that surrounds respect, how to treat people, how to be treated, how to demand to be respected, how to go out of your way to honor people, to honor family, and all of that, it means that we skip all of those things. And the reason why we skip all of these things is because we are not intentional about our learning or what we're teaching our children. So being intentional allows you to sit down and look at it in a holistic way. It allows you to sit down and make sure that there are no stones unturned. So it allows you to look at different aspects, right? Different aspects of honor, different aspects of whatever you want to see in your children. I want my child to be someone who demands to be respected and gives us respect, knows how to respect people and demands to be respected. I want a child that we can have a relationship such that my child doesn't just obey me, my child honors me. Now the next question you'll be asking yourself is, what am I going to put in place? What do I have to do? What are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps that I need to take to ensure that I teach and I allow this child practice, internalize, and so this becomes a habit in the child's life. So these are the things that we don't do. So it's not necessarily that we don't know what we want our children to achieve, or we want to achieve in our children, or we don't know what habits we want to instill in them. The challenge is how do we go about helping them achieve this. And this is what we do with the Parents in the Mentor Parent Program. We help you break down the goals, the things you want to see in your children. We take them for you, and then we give you a roadmap, right? We break it down for you and give you a roadmap that you can use to teach these things in steps until you can hit it and say you can hit it and say, okay, we have achieved this goal. All right. So now, what does it take for a child to actually learn, right? What does it take for a child to learn when you take your children to school or you take them wherever the goal is for them to learn, to actually learn. What does it take for them to learn? All right. So learning takes a couple of things, right? There are certain factors that should be in place for learning to happen. There are certain factors that should be in place for academic success to emerge, isn't it? So one of those factors is actually the environment. Okay. One of the factors that needs to be in place for learning to happen in any human being, especially in a child who is just learning. Remember, when they come, they don't really know anything. As we always say, tabula rasa, you are going to start programming and teaching, and then everything around them is going to come in together to help your child learn, isn't it? So at this point, the environment is very important. Now, what is in your environment that's going to help your child learn, right? What is in that environment that is going to help you achieve learning or help your children achieve learning? Because it is one thing for you to teach, it is another for the person to learn, okay? Now, in that environment, in that environment, the curriculum that is present in that environment, the people present in that environment, the knowledge present in that environment, the information present in that environment, all of these things put together is what makes up your child's environment. So the people, the information, the knowledge, the environment, the ambience, and all of that, it all comes together. And then the experiences that your child would have in that space is what we put together and we say is the environment. So you agree with me that this is where the school comes in a lot of the times. Okay, this is where the school comes in. If you're with me, please don't be in the background. Please let us know you are here. And if you know someone who needs to be here, please let them join us. I don't think we even sent a message in the group to. Okay, so we're going on. We're moving on. So in that environment, so you agree with me that this is where the school comes in a lot of the times, because the school is deliberate about the environment, especially if you happen to get your child into the right kind of school. Just 1 minute. Let me just do a bit of see, we're here. We are live in the group, so that anyone who, the people who wanted to join this session, so let's just say we are live. Join us. Refresh the page and join us. All right, let's go. All right, so yeah, so the school environment now is, because it's a formal environment, so the school community goes out of its way to ensure. Sorry, what happened? Sorry, please, I'm having. All right, so the school environment goes out of its way to make sure that it does a lot to ensure that the right environment is made available to our children. I mean, hoping that we get them into the right kind of facility, isn't it? So if you get your children to the right kind of center, what you find there is they try to create an ambience that allows your children learn. Okay, because children will not learn until they are excited about that learning. Please write this down and note it. Okay, children learn only when they are excited about the learning. Yes, they can be in that space. Yes, they can show up every day because they do not have a choice. They can be taught. It's two different things. To be taught and to actually learn are two different things. Learning does not happen until the learner is excited about learning. Learning does not happen until the learner is willing to learn, until the learner is motivated to learn. Okay, and some of the things that will help your learner excited about learning, motivated about learning, okay, and enjoy that learning is the environment. So the ambience. So that's why you take your child to an early years center, and then you see all the beautiful, all the colorful, attractive, beautiful things all around. It's so that your learner will come in and be comfortable and be attracted first to the space. There is a place of attraction in everything that we learn to love, okay, from people to things and all of that. So there has to be that first impression. It has to hit you. You have to really like that place. So that's why you see, they even say to you, before you enroll them, bring them for a tour around the school. All right. So the idea is to get your child, first of all, connected with the environment. So the child comes in and it connects with the environment. So the playground, it's supposed to, all of those things, the playground is meant to excite your child. So he comes in and then he sees the swing, he sees the bouncer, he sees this, he sees the large field. He knows that he can run around and all of that. So first thing first, the child is like, I like it. You see that? So first thing is the child likes the space, okay? He goes into his classroom, and then you see those really very large classroom these days. Classroom, I'm talking about, educators who understand what it takes, right? For the factors that need to be in place for learning to happen. So the child walks into the classroom. You see, that's why you see schools that have the right, built facilities are very proud and very eager to take you around, because they know that, the first impression and how the child connects with the environment is very important. Okay, so the child goes in and, everything is, looking nice and all of that, exciting, inviting, welcoming, colorful, and all of that. And the child, warms up to the environment. The next part of it is the people in that environment. Okay, your child comes in and you see a child would do badly for a whole school year simply because the child couldn't connect with his teacher. The child couldn't connect with his teacher. There is no connection. The teacher is probably a kind of person that is, that just the child doesn't just blend with, probably because the teacher is not easy, to walk up to. The teacher is not warm. So you see, that's why when you go to, especially, LES centers, right? LES centers, foundation, schools, you will realize they try as much as possible to put people who are, playful and exciting and all of that. So that's why a lot of times you meet a lot of women in that group, But, out of this country, I mean, you meet all kind of people, because anybody can be that, really. It's just here that we assume that you have to be a woman for you to be warm and calm and easygoing and all of that. So basically, it is a strategy, for your children to be able to connect with their teachers when they come in, because real educators understand that for learning to happen, the child must connect with the environment, and the child should be excited about that learning, and the people in that environment are part of the environment and part of the reason why your child will be excited or not excited about learning. Okay, the other thing is the curriculum. What's the content of the curriculum? All right, the content of the curriculum also. How exciting is learning? What are the activities? What are the activities the children will do? I mean, is the environment taking note of who the learner is and how the learner, all of these things. So you see, yes, for the environment, the school comes in, but that isn't all that is needed, right? That's not all that is needed for a child to be successful, whether academically or generally. All right, we'll come to that. Okay, the other thing that needs to be in place, I'm talking about factors that need to be in place for our children to actually learn, okay, because the goal is to raise children who love learning, so that they are lifelong learners. Because in the world that we're in today, and where the world is going to, if you are not raising a child who enjoys learning, you are setting your child up for failure, because things are going to keep changing, and they're changing like really, really very fast. So what exists today is probably not going to exist in the next couple of years. In fact, even the experts cannot place their finger and say, this is the kind of job, this is the kind of society, or this is the kind of, a system that is going to be available in the next 20, 30 years. So because we can't picture it, or we don't know what kind of world our children will have to exist in, because if you go and ask your grandma if she ever imagined that the world will be the way it is today, okay, she probably never imagined it. So it's the same way. We can't imagine the next 20, 30 years when your children will be 30, 40, and 50. So what do you do as a parent? Since you cannot prepare them for a world that you cannot project or envisage, so what do? You empower them to be people who are ready learners. You empower them, you make the ground fertile, so that when the time comes, no matter what the world, projects, or whatever the world serves your child, because your child is empowered and ready to learn, it's easy for the child to acclimatize. It's easy for the children, right, to acclimatize. It's easy for them to get right into the mix and move and still be successful, because one of your goals is to actually empower your children to be able to navigate the world with or without you. So yes, the goal right now for every parent should be to raise children who love to learn. So this is not the time where your child is only studying because you are chasing them to study. This is not the time where your child will only look at their book because you are around. If you have raised children who are preteens and teenagers, and on their own, they are not curious, they don't want to explore, they don't want to create, they don't want to know new things, they don't want to do new things, then you need to go right back to the drawing board and start working your way again. If not, you're going to be sabotaging those children. All right. So the next factor that needs to be in place is you need to understand your learner and how your learner learns best. Okay, now in this part of the world, this is another challenge that we have even in the classroom or even in schools. Okay, a lot of our schools do not have what it takes to attend to each of the learners or each of their learners based on how they learn. Okay, and you can understand with them why this is not in place, because hey, where is the facility? Where are the experts? Where are the facility? Where are the trained staff for all of these? Or are the owners of the school, are they even aware, or are they even willing to go that route? Okay, are they ready to give that much into educating the children? We're talking about the owners of private school, not to talk about the government. I'm from Nigeria, so I'm talking from this side. Not talk about the government that is still struggling with whether education is a priority, is important or not. Okay, so that's a matter for another day. But hey, what we're saying is, for learning to actually happen and for us to raise children who will be successful academically in their cognitive abilities, then we should be raising children that we understand. Okay, we understand them as learners and we understand how they learn. Okay, so in a lot of our schools, this is not the case. Children are bunched together and children are assessed based on the speed of their learning, which is actually a terrible rubric to use and assess people. Some children will learn very fast. Some children will learn very fast based on their temperament, based on their a lot of it based on their temperament or based on their DNA composition. You have a father who's really brilliant. You have a mother who, basically, and then you are raised in a home with this same kind of people who are focused, who are hardworking, who are a certain kind of people. And then, they have a certain kind of standards in your home. So yes, that child is going to have, some springboard, some upper hand, as opposed to a child whose parents are probably two very business people or very busy people and all of that. Daddy's out in the morning and is gone, mommy's out. So the examples, are not there for the child to pick firsthand. Certain habits are not built and not created and all of that. Apart from that, one child is, a sanguine and is all over the place, the life of the party, jumpy and all of that. The attention span is really short. So why Miss Edith is there teaching, that child is not going to just sit down there and listen to Miss Edith. By virtue of his temperament, he wants to move, he wants to touch, he wants to jump around and all of that. And there's really nothing wrong with that. This is who he is. Now, there is another child who is phlegmatic or just melancholic, and this child does not have a problem with, yes, sorry. So now there is this other child who is melancholic or phlegmatic, and this child can actually, calm down, listen to you as you are instructing. So you can listen to you as you are instructing and all of that. So it simply means that this child will, in a classroom, this child will probably see more of what the teacher is saying, because by virtue of their temperament, this child can be calm and listen to you. And so, of course, get more. Apart from that, this child could be a child who is an auditory learner. So all he needs to do is listen, and most of what is being taught is already picked and taken in or absorbed. Okay, meanwhile, this other child is very tactile, right? The other child is very tactile, and the teacher is there talking. So no, it's not making sense. He can feel it, he can touch it, he cannot see it. I mean, could be a visual learner or so. She can see it, she can see pictures, there are no diagrams. All of these learning styles, all these things come together. But hey, we're not interested in who our different learners are and if the mode or the strategy that we're using to teach, if each of them is getting it. So we just move on like that as teachers, and we go on whether they get it or not. Now, at the end of the day, 12 weeks later, we come and then we assess the children. And then this assessment is based on simply one thing. Simply how much you have taken from what you have been taught, and how much of that you have assimilated, and how much of that you're ready to put back and give me in your paper. I mean, so meaning if you have a child who doesn't even like to write much, if you have a child that is slow as writing, if you have a child that has some of these other struggles, it means that that child will be assessed without all of this being considered. So you see why, the learning style, is very, very important. How your learner learns and all of that is still very, very important, isn't it? Now, the third part is skills and habits. All right. So what skills do these children have? What skills do your kids have, or do your children have that can really position them to be successful? What habits have been built over the years that can actually position your child to be successful? All of these things come into play, okay, in raising children who will be successful even academically and in other areas. All right, now look at these three things that I've just talked about. I've just talked about environment. I've talked about how the learner learns, right? And who the learner is as a learner. And then I have also talked about skills and habits. Now look at this. Would you actually say that the success of the average child, right? That the success of the average child, or how well the average child does, even academically, is dependent on the school solely? I mean, look at from what I have said. Okay, from what I have said, do you think that it is a school that will actually position your child, right, to be successful academically or generally in life? Now, you can put that in the comments. Let me see if that's what you think. Okay, so if you are being realistic, okay, if you've been following me and you're being realistic, you will realize that as much as the school would do a part or do its part, right, in putting all these factors that your children need to be successful in place, there is so much more that you can do as a parent from home. Okay, there is so much more that you can do. So your child cannot be successful, okay, your child cannot be successful academically, okay, your child cannot be successful generally if you are going to solely depend on the school to make that happen. And this is because the school might be able to provide the ambience and provide all that is needed in the environment. But what if they don't? What if your child is in a school that doesn't have all it takes, the right resources, the right curriculum, the right, approach, curriculum, the right approach to teaching? What if your child doesn't have that in that school, enough to make the child thrive? Now, what if your child for a particular year doesn't have the right connection with the teacher who happens to be his teacher that year? What if your child is not connecting with half or 3/4 of his teachers that year? It's needed for the child to thrive. What if the school where your child is not big on their learning style, or doesn't even have the capacity, right, to raise to raise their learners based on how they learn? What if the school doesn't have what it takes, doesn't even bother about this, and it's not part of the school system, right, to differentiate this way and trying to help the learners individually? If you are in third world Africa, you will know what I'm talking about. It may not be possible. In fact, even in the West, if you are not in the right kind of school, all of this may not also, they may miss a thing here and there, isn't it? Right. Now, this particular one, the last one, the skills and the habits. Is it the school that will have time to teach your children the habits that are needed for your children to succeed? The school will take its time and teach your children, all 30 of them in a class, empathy. Will take its time and teach your children, all 30 of them in the class, grit. Will take its time to teach all your children in class time management, self-management, social skills, emotional intelligence. Will the school do all of this? So you see why you cannot, in the 21st century, depend on the school system to put everything in place that your child needs to thrive or your child needs to succeed. There has to be so much more that you are willing to do as a parent. There's to be so much more that you are willing to do from the home front. All right. Now we're looking at skills. So this is where, the skills, the extracurricular activities, the interest that your children. I said, okay, we want to talk about how you can use all of this. Because yes, for your children to thrive, certain things need to be in place. Your children need to enjoy what they're doing. They need to love what they're doing. They need to love what they're doing. They need to want to know and to learn that thing more for learning to happen. Okay, so we're going to see how we can use these other things that our children love to put them in that space so that we can now ride on that to help them build their academic skills also. That's what this class is about. Okay, what can your children do that will pay attention? Okay, what are they doing outside? What are the things they do outside that pays attention to how they learn best? That pays attention to, what kind of learners they are. Can we borrow from that and apply it into what they do in school, okay, to help them be successful academically? What skills do things that your children do outside help them imbibe? And can those skills, as soon as they imbibe those skills, would we be able to translate or use those skills and apply them in their academics, in their school settings, so that your children can thrive all around? That's what we're looking at today. Okay, so that's what we're looking at today. So research has shown, okay, psychologists have done a lot of research, into how children, work, how children learn, and all of that, how children learn, how children succeed, and all of that. Okay, psychologists have done a lot of research in this area. A lot of people who work with children. If you're with us, please, let me see you in the comments, please. I need to take this off so that the noise stops. Okay, so let's see you in the comments. Please say something if you're following me. Someone that needs to be here, please invite your friends. Okay, some of these things are better when we're saying it hot, so that you can pick it and you can run with it. It can be really difficult to come back and watch some of these videos sometimes. I don't know about you, it happens to me. So it's always nicer be here, ask the questions, make the comments, so that we know and you can push us to talk more about the things that are hitting you. Okay, all right, so let's go. So psychologists have realized that, there are so many skills, or there's so many things. Hi, Raji, it's good to have you. I mean, that's okay. So psychologists have realized that there's so many things, okay, skills and habits, that need to be in place for children to be successful. Okay, and there's some of them that we take for granted. All right. Now it's saying that a lot of successful people, all right, through research, okay, research in colleges, research in colleges and universities, in workplaces, research done in colleges, in workplaces, in areas of economy development and all of that. Okay, research have been done to see people who are most successful in all of these areas. What kept on coming up, or what factors were seen in these people that are seen to be self-made billionaires and millionaires, or self-made successful people. Okay, and research has found that a lot of these people, what kept on coming up, over and over again, okay, among successful people, wasn't exactly their IQ. It wasn't exactly how well they did with their grades. So, or how cognitive, how well they did in math and English, how critical thinking, and it wasn't as much as that, even though all of these factors are present. Okay, but it wasn't the best people or the most successful people or the people who did well or who have consistently done well are not exactly the ones with the highest IQ. Okay, they weren't also exactly the ones with the coolest looks. Okay, it wasn't the people who looked, who were physically, pretty or handsome. Really, they weren't like the ones who consistently were seen as, to give out successful results, outcomes basically. Okay, it wasn't people also with the best social skills per se. All of these are component, but they were not exactly, those were not the things that showed up over and over again. Okay, one of the things that showed up over and over again is people who had grit. Okay, people who had grit were seen to be more successful. Okay, people who had grit were seen to be more successful. And then what is grit exactly? Right? It says that grit is passion and perseverance for a very long term. When you're being passionate and perseverant with your long-term goals. People who are able to set goals, who are able to set long-term goals, and they are passionate about those goals, and they are perseverant, right? They don't lose steam. They show up every day, every month, every week. They showed up every time in pursuance of that goal. So it is seen that the most successful people are not the people who are the most beautiful or the most handsome people in the park. The most successful people are not the people with the highest IQ, the ones who came out with the straight A's. They didn't turn out. It's not, over and over again, it's not seen that these people are the ones who turn out to be more successful in the business place, in the marketplace, in different fields, even in colleges and places like that, from research and studies. Okay, it was more like people who could set goals, set long-term goals, stay focused on those goals, showed up and did something about those goals every day. Okay, people who are focused on their future and what goals or what targets they have set for themselves for that, for that for that future to come alive, basically. So how does this now apply to children? Isn't it? That's the question you're asking. How does this now apply to children, and how does this now apply to what we're talking about today? Now, if you're going to raise children, right? If we're going to raise children, and all we're going to say to our children is study and do well and come out with the best grades. Okay, now what is going to be, how is all of these grades and all of that, how is it tied to their long-term goals? How is it tied to their long-term goals? And how is it what will make the long-term goals manifest? And besides, what are these long-term goals? So we're saying, if our children have interests, if your child has an interest, if your child has a talent, if your child has something, that the child is looking forward to, or some long-term, how the child sees themselves in, say, 20, 30, 40 years time, that becomes a goal. So in our mentor parent support program, I said to the parents recently, I told them to have their children create profiles for themselves. Create profiles for themselves, their 30, 40-year-old self. So let your child write a profile for himself, okay, what he sees himself or how he sees himself in the next 30, 40 years. Now, if your child is able to create that picture and you are able to create that picture together in your head, so it means that you now have a goal, because that picture becomes your goal. This is who you want to be. This is who the adult you're raising the child to be. Okay, this is where you are headed to. And I've said many times that when we create goals for the children in my home, we create what we call the 2010. So we have a 10-year plan and then we have a 20-year plan for the children. So basically, the 20-year plan automatically becomes your goal for 20 years. Okay? So when you have this and that goal is tied to your child's interests, so let's say your child plays football and in 20 years' time, 30 years' time, he sees himself in Real Madrid. Okay. He sees himself as, a professional, or what do they call them at that stage? Okay. He sees himself as, a professional, right? He sees himself as a professional footballer, okay, with one of the top clubs, okay, in Europe or wherever. All right. And then he sees himself as a philanthropist. He sees himself doing that, impacting the world through football. Okay, he sees himself as a philanthropist, or sees himself with a small academy or an academy in Africa to help other children with the same goal to grow. So basically, this is a picture, right? And this becomes your child's long-term goal. So if you're able to raise children and allow them begin to create this kind of picture in their heads, okay? If we program them to see themselves to see themselves and see their goals this way, and be able to create this in their head somewhere, okay? So it means that this becomes a long-term goal, right? Now we're able to break these long-term goals into smaller term goals, okay? And it's with that we're able to create the 1 year plan or the goal for 1 year, isn't it? Okay, just as Kamsi and his partners are doing in the mentor parent support in the mastermind program. So in the mastermind program, these children come and they create goals for a quarter of the year. So they create goals for a quarter of the year. So this becomes their mid-term goal, sort of. And what do we do in that program? After the children have created these goals for 4 months, they now break their goals into monthly goals. So every month, the children have a goal for the month. Okay? And then what happens? We go further and we break these goals into daily goals. So the children do something towards their goals every day. It's the same thing in the mentor parent program. We break down the goals and we create an education plan for you as a parent. Okay, we call it the PEP, personalized education plan. This is what you want to achieve with your child. Okay, so we break it down for you and we create a personalized education plan. Now, this is what you would do every day, and then we begin to send you tools. This is what you do every day towards that ultimate goal. Every day. The same thing the children do, because it's not enough for us to create plans as parents for our children and begin to work the plan towards what we want to achieve with them as parents. Until our children start to do things on their own, they will not internalize. Okay, they will not internalize. So a goal cannot be achieved until, okay, a goal that is the child's goal that has to do with the child cannot be achieved until the child becomes a part of that goal. You can write that down. A goal cannot be achieved until, as far as that goal has to do with the child. So a goal for a child cannot be achieved until the child becomes a part of that goal. So basically, what the mastermind does, it allows these children create these goals, and then they do something towards the goal every day. So that's what we're saying. So your child wants to be this professional footballer. He wants to do so well. He wants to give back to the world through professional football. He wants to build an academy, okay, somewhere in my village, in Kapago, in Bokila, Goja, do you understand? He wants to do all of that. And so what happens? He begins to make efforts towards that goal every day. Why is that? Because there is a long-term goal in place. So what happens before the child can hit that goal? It means that the child will have to learn grit. And good thing is, grit is something that can be learned, isn't it? Perseverance, isn't it? It is perseverance, it is passion. So now, because this is coming from the child, because it's coming from the child is passionate about it. And then, because you're supporting the child and you're teaching the child how to create goals around these things, how to pursue that goal, how to do something about it every day, then perseverance is also put in place. So, passion, perseverance, this is how you will help the child to develop grit. And it is with that grit that the most successful people have been able to meet their goals, have been able to stay on their goals, and have been able to turn out to be successful through grit. Okay, so in a story, bedtime story. So bedtime story for champion is a collection of stories of people who have done amazing things. Amazing book for every child to read. Okay, if you have kids between 7 and 13, they should read this book. In fact, they should have this book in their library. This book should come out every now and then. It's not a book, it's not one of those books that you finish reading and you don't, okay, and you go. No, it's a book that comes out every time there's a teachable moment. You pick a story from bedtime story that you can use to buttress that point and send that lesson, home, basically. All right. So in the book Bedtime Stories for Champions, there was a story of Golan Gulab. So Gulab is MasterChef Junior winner, right? So in that story, Gulab was only about 9 years old, something like that, and he was watching MasterChef with his dad. And while he was watching the first edition, he told his dad that he can win, that if he goes for that competition, that he can win that competition also. Now, why would he sound this confident? It was because this child has always loved cooking. So it's said that right from when he was 2 years old, he started making cocoa and coffee and all of that, for himself and for his parents. So imagine the parents will actually send their 2-year-old to go and make them tea or make them coffee, and he will actually go make a nice cup of coffee or nice cup of tea and bring to you and all of that. Now, so he enjoyed being in the kitchen. So of course he learned a lot of recipes in the kitchen with his mother and all of that. So he became so passionate about this. This is what happens when, as parents, we pay attention to our children's passion, we pay attention to their talents, or pay attention to the things that they are interested in. When you do this, you're able to help them, you're able to motivate them, basically. You're able to encourage them. So imagine that you have a child today who loves to cook, whether he's a boy or a girl, it doesn't really matter. He loves to cook. He enjoys being in the kitchen and all of that. So what can you do? Buy a copy of Bedtime Stories for Champion and share the story of Gulab with that child. What are you doing? You are already inspiring, you're already motivating this child. You are having some sort of a model for this child, through this. Just reading this child's story, your child will see him as some sort of a model, okay, or someone to model after. Basically, what are you doing at this point? You are acknowledging your child's interest and you are helping them to hone that interest. So you're helping them to, magnify or that interest, or keep them, keep that interest on until that interest begins to turn into a passion. So you have a role to play in these things. Okay. Now, as a parent, the next thing you want to do is you want to create structural, you want to create, structure at home that will allow your child, still pursue their interests while they're still doing every other thing. Life is about balance, basically. Create a time for everything in your children's life. Have some schedule at home that allows them time for every of the things that they love to do and everything that is important in their lives. Right. So at some point, Gulab's mother realized that he didn't like to write. He didn't like to write creative writing, all those essays and all of that in school. He didn't like it. So what did she do? She woke up one day and she said to him, guess what? Let's start a food blog. Let's start a food blog where you have to write about food and all of that and all of that. Boom. Because he already has a love for cooking. Because he loves everything food. He loves to prepare food. He loves he loves the spices and loves the different recipes and all of that. So what did they do? He would actually go around the neighborhood, right? He would actually go to MasterChef. He would actually go to big chefs around, his area, environment and all of that. Okay, I'm sure they will have to, like, every week they will say, okay, let's go. Let's say, for instance, you're in Abuja, you'll be like, okay, this week let's go to City Park restaurant, right? Let's go to City Park restaurant and see if they will allow us come and interview them. So he would go to that restaurant and then he would ask for permission and all of that. They would give him a day and then he would come. He would stay with the chef in the kitchen, ask questions about a recipe and ask questions, about his recipe or something that he's making, his menu and all of that. So while he's doing that, he will go back and he will have to write and blog about this. So yes, through a passion that he had, he started writing. Every skill that you need to enhance, practice is very important. So you need to increase the outcome, or to get the right outcome, you need to increase the number of times that the person does that thing. So you need to build stamina. That's how skills are internalized. You have to help the person build stamina in that skill. So yes, because the mother wanted to, help him build stamina in his creative writing. So what did she use? She used a skill she used something that he already has a passion in. So yes, there's so many ways that you can use the interest, the passion, the talents that your children have, and it will still come back and it will serve them in their school or with their academics, basically. Okay, there's also the story of Essence Moore. Okay, so Essence loved to talk. So she would go to school and she would come back and she would tell endless stories to her mother. Margaret did this, and Morgan did this, and this person did that, and this happened in the classroom today, and that happened in the cafeteria today. She would tell all of these stories to her mother, and her mother would listen to her go on and on and on and on. And one day her mom said to her, "Guess what? You can actually write these stories in a journal. Why don't you journal, a lot of these stories, a lot of these things that happen in school? Why don't you write it down? Okay, that way you're documenting and all of that." Because she loves to write, because she loves, to tell the stories, and she enjoyed telling the stories. So what did she do? For every day she came back to school, she sat down and then she goes about the things that happened in school. And guess what? Through her journal, she was able to write her first book. Right? Through that journal, she was able to write her first book, Grade Middle School Chronicles. So basically, she wrote a book based on what happens in middle school. And guess what? In the United States of America, there are actually some school districts that use these books today. I heard a number of districts actually use her books. It didn't end there. So she moved on from middle school. She wrote one for middle school. She wrote for high school. She has 3 books that has come from what? From a talent, from a passion that she had. So now she's a writer. That's a skill. That's a talent. But look at how she, next, just talking. And you cannot tell me that this child wouldn't do well in creative writing in school, isn't it? So basically, just from something she loved to do, and because she had a parent who is able to pay attention to it and help her see what can come out of it, just see how it turned out. So she must be, an excellent student in creative writing, right? For her to have gone on to write 3 successful books that are actually being used in schools, in not just one school or one small space, used in districts. Imagine how many schools are in each of these districts. So imagine all of that. There's some kids who go to taekwondo. I mean, they go for martial arts and taekwondo. Do you know the kind of focus they have to learn? Okay, it's a very disciplined sport, or whatever it's sports, right? It's a very disciplined sport. It's a sport that actually pays attention to hierarchy. So you come in, you you actually, pay attention, or you're demanded to be respectful to a person that has a higher belt and all of that. So our children are already learning, leadership, and they're learning, to respect authority and all of that. And then they learn all that, discipline that goes on in martial arts and taekwondo. By the time your children join, they have interest in this area, and they do, they attend, this sports and all of that, they will learn these skills, and these skills can actually be applied even in their academics. There is no kind of environment or gathering or place, right, that does not that does not recommend or does not recommend that you are disciplined, isn't it? I remember at the time, my son had a chance when he was about eight or so. He was still all over the place. He was still restless and all over the place and all of that. I started looking at him and I'm like, what will I, what will I have him do to help him learn coordination and sitting, something that will keep him focused, It's okay. I'll see it later. I will see it later. It's okay. So basically, and I will see it. It's okay. You can go. It's fine. All right. It's okay, mommy. It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's just a club. All right. That's okay. All right. So sorry about this. And that's okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's just a club. Okay. That's fine. You can go back to what you're watching. All right. Sorry about that. So sorry, my daughter just broke something and she's upset about it. All right. Sorry about that. So basically, I started thinking, but in church, they have these, boys who help out, in church, and they have to be there during the mass and service and all of that, altar boys and all of that. And I looked at him, I'm like, okay, this works. You have to be seated in one place, or you have to be seated in a particular way for a whole 40, 50, 60 minutes, for a whole hour. And you have to be coordinated like that. So I asked him, would you like to do this? And he's like, I'm like, okay, it'll be good for you. It'll be good for you. I encouraged him, and he went right there. At the beginning, you will see him do this. He will do this. He will do this. By the time they addressed him 2 times during their meetings, he started getting himself together and coordinating. Right? That was like the final stage of us, getting him to stay steady and stretch his attention span and all of that. All right. So there are so many things that your children can do. How about, exercise and, lifestyle and all of that? Just getting your children playing, getting them into sports, right? So while they're doing all the basketball and football and all of that, they are keeping fit, right? Wouldn't that help them in their PhD classes? Would that help them in their PhD classes, and in other places like that? All right. So physical education is part of education, isn't it? So there's so many things that your children can do that will actually influence, their everyday life. When my son started, his business, when my son started his his small juice company at the time, he started from school. Right? And then he decided to keep it, and continue with the business and all that. After about a year, I looked at him and I'm like, if he's going to do this, then he might as well get the right training and what he needs to do this. So I engaged, a computer guy. I engaged his ICT teacher and then got him a trainer to help him build his skill in Microsoft's, office, basically. So because of his business, because he was doing a business at the time, it became the reason why he had to go and learn Microsoft Office at the age of 10. It was about 10 then when he had to. So we engaged him that way. Today, my son can do what I cannot even use Excel. I can't use Excel. I can't do the kind of PowerPoint presentations. I can't put a PowerPoint presentation as well as my 12-year-old son would do. So he's good at Excel. He's great at Michael. He can create any spreadsheets. He does his accounts for his business on his own. He can use Excel like any adult in any, any adult in any real office can. So there are a lot of times I'm doing certain things, I even get, lost, that as in I can't remember certain things. He just says, "Oh, mommy, just step away, I'll do that for you." And he fixes everything because he runs his own account on his own for his business. All I have to do is come in at the end of the month and I do the auditing. So I audit. So once in a week, I look at his books to make sure that his books are balanced. And then at the end of the month, we come in and we do the final accounts for the month so we can see the profits, we see the, basically all of that. Now, it is only because of an interest that he has. It is only because of an interest that he has that became the reason for us to do this. So yes, let your children pursue their interests. Let your children pursue their talents. Let your children pursue the things that they love to do. From that, they will gain skills. From that, they will gain habits. They will build habits that will help them do exceedingly well in school. So yes, his accounting skills and all of that is helping him with math, is helping him in business science in school. Math, there are a lot of things that other children are learning, and it is just, they're learning and it's superficial to them. It's just book knowledge kind of for them. For him, it is very practical because he's used this thing and he works with them, hands-on basically. So this is how you set your children apart. And basically, this is how you help your children build long-term goals. Because a child who has an interest, who has a passion, who has all of that, can have a long-term goal that is authentic. As opposed to a child that just says, "Oh, I want to be a medical doctor." Or I want to be, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. But if we're going to leave our children to just have those very tall, abstract kind of goals, "Oh, I'm going to be just this." What are you going to do every day that is tangible, that is working towards that goal? We want our children to create goals that they can work towards every day. Goals that includes impact. Okay, it's okay to even have a goal to be a medical doctor, but you should be able to come with the child and break down that goal into what you can do every day. So eventually there'll be a lot of skills and even grits, right, will come in there. A lot of skills that you can now train. So through what area are you going to train those skills every day? What is the child going to do every day towards that goal of being a medical doctor? What are the things that he's going to do to help him build stamina, help him build perseverance, help him build, all of this that it takes, right? Build perseverance, show up every day, okay, and then build passion. So what is he going to do every day that will make him passionate enough for that ultimate goal of being a medical doctor? So even for children who want to be medical doctors, could you look for something, right, that they can build every day? Could you look for something that they can do every day towards that goal? Can they volunteer? Can they volunteer during the holiday? Can they volunteer in facilities that have something to do with medicine and all of that, so that they show up in these places every day? Can they try to create an app? Right? Can they think of something? Can they start beginning to research, can they begin to research, a particular area? Can they begin to build knowledge in a particular area and then build that knowledge every day? Do research in that area every day, okay, towards that ultimate goal. This is how you build passion in the child, okay, with the long-term goal, as the motivation, basically. So, yes, it is not the time. This is not the time where you tell children, no, you can't do anything. Leave that thing. Focus on your book. What is the motive? What is the ultimate? What's the long-term goal? What is it that the child is going to fix their gaze on that will keep them passionate and keep them, focused and persevere? Continue to make them persevere towards that thing that you are telling them to focus on their schoolwork for. So no, it is empty. It is a vacuum when there is nothing that is a long-term goal, and you keep saying to children, focus, focus. So that's why you hear them these days, because those children these days, they don't have chills. You hear them say to you, yes, if I do, then what? You hear, I mean, I've heard parents have told me, so many parents have, come to me to talk about their children, asking them, yes, I passed, then what? It's because you have not helped them create, or you've not helped them see beyond pass the exam, have grades. You've not helped them see beyond, the fact that you want to have bragging rights to say to your friends, my child came out with 8 straight A's. Because if there is something that is their own, right, that they can see ahead of them, and they can see that, okay, for you to achieve this, you will need these A's. So that end point, the goal is the motivation, and then them staying, persevering, right, them staying on task, being perseverant and being passionate about that thing is what keeps them going on and on and on, is what keeps that goal alive. So you must create that picture. So if there is a skill, if there is a talent, if there is an activity, if there is anything out there that your children can do that actually points them to that ultimate goal that you're looking for, please, by all means, find it and let them begin to hone it. Your child wants to be, is so into fashion. She loves to combine clothes and look this way, and is so into looking nice and all of that. Why don't you begin to encourage them towards learning how to sew and how to make these things? It is an era where children need to be taught to create. What can they create today towards the ultimate goal that they are where they are heading? So yes, you want to be like Vera Wang, you want to be like and Gucci, you want to be all of this. You can actually help them create picture. You can actually be as big as all of these brands. But what can you do from today, every day, towards being as big as these brands? So let them create that big picture that looks like Vera Wang. Let them create that big picture that looks like all of these, great brands. Create that picture, and then create goals. 20 years, 10 years, 1 year goal, everyday goal that will help them, reach that long-term target. Remember that grit has to do with what? It has to do with perseverance and passion, right, towards a long-term goal. And research and studies have shown that most successful people are people who have grit. All right. And then, of course, I have shared stories, right, from bedtime stories to you, for champions, where we saw children who had passion, and the passion became the reason how their parents could help them do well academically. So when all of these things are in place, you will find that the academic work that you're shouting, everything will fall in place. Everything will fall in place. Okay, because what you will be raising in your children is you'll be raising children with a growth mindset. You'll be raising children with a growth mindset. It is the growth mindset that makes your child stay on there and persevere, knowing that no matter where I reach or no matter what I do, it's not enough. There is always room to be better. Okay, so while your child is in school and he's studying and he's not, at one point his grades are dwindling, at another point they're rising, the child stays on knowing that there is room for more. There is room for more. Even at the point where the child is getting 100 over 100, the child can still say to himself, there is room for more. There is more to conquer. There is more to do. There is more to achieve towards my ultimate goal. So, right, if you are able to get children focus and pursuing this, you will be building or helping them develop the growth mindset. And this is what is needed basically for your children to keep their goals, okay? Keep their goals, ahead of them and stay focused on those goals. All right, thank you very much. I think we spent our 1 hour here today. Thank you very much, everyone who joined us. Okay, if you're catching the replay, let us know that you're catching the replay. Let us know if you have gotten value from this session. Let us know if you're ready to start committing to allowing our children chase their other goal, other passions and other interests, even while they are doing well academically. No one is trying to say school is not important. School is very, very important. But hey, there is much more to life and being successful, being impactful, making a difference in the world than just doing well in math, physics, chemistry, and literature. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Raji. Thank you for everyone who is here, for those in the background and those who are in the comments. Thank you very much. Have a lovely, lovely rest of the day. Bye.